So, before I continue building my channel, I just want to pause and kind of explain what my perspective of the mind war is. Because it's something that I've found myself caught up into, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't even realize is going on. They don't realize that the mind war is a very real war that is going on. It's just not a physical war. So, with it in mind that the mind war is not a physical war and that it's mental, which means that the effects of the war are not at all similar to a physical war's effects. With that in mind, I just kind of want to go through a list of what I find a physical war to be and what I define a mental war to be. So, a physical war is where the damage is physical, whereas a mental war, the damage is mental. In a physical war, the effects are physical. What is changed are landscapes, and what is destroyed is structural. However, in a mental war, the effects are mental. What is changed is the culture rather than landscapes. And what is destroyed is kind of a culture's or a society's spirituality. It's altered. It's been manipulated and has been molded into something that serves the purpose of the people who have won the war, serves the purpose of the people who have put the most energy into manipulating and convincing a population that the way that they believe a population should behave is the right way. And, you know, I think that there are definitely soldiers in this mind war. As ridiculous as it sounds, people who participate in the mind war here on the internet are are like soldiers. They're not physical soldiers, they're mental soldiers. They're trying to sort through the ridiculousness that is pushed on the people by elites and governments and large religion. And anyone who does not participate or think critically about the events in the mind war is, in my opinion, technically a civilian in the mind war. They do not have any understanding or concept of the mind war, so they cannot have any credible opinion of it. We need enough people to start making it seem not so bold to discuss the matters of the mind war in public. Right now, you're seen as a crazy person. You know, ideally, we want to get to the point where people feel comfortable criticizing others publicly who are unaware of the effect the mind war has had on them. We want people to point out what has been manipulated in the population. And we want people to feel comfortable pointing these things out without fearing getting ridiculed for hate speech, without fearing arrest, without fearing consequences of having free speech. I think we want to get to the point where people are able to publicly discuss matters like gematria and the elite's manipulation of the media that they put out. I think it would be healthy for humans to get to the point where that is a factual piece of evidence that is seen as a given, that people are intended to be manipulated by the elite, and that the elite use tools of manipulation like language, which coincidentally has this mathematical aspect to it which is gematria and numerology. So think about that. All right, so now I'm going to get into kind of what I see the mind war as, which I think is something that a lot of people will agree with. In the mind war, there are, like in all wars, sides. On one side, you have people who are trying to expose truth and who are trying to expose the past and present actions of ruling entities of this world, which are on the other side of the war. One side of the battle, you have people who are trying to get to the truth behind what is put out by the elites and the government. And on the other side, you have the opposite of that, the government who's trying to manipulate people into believing and accepting a way of life that doesn't necessarily agree with the people's morals. So what the government and the elite entities try to do is to manipulate people into thinking that the prior morals that their, parents or cultures possessed, the elites tried to manipulate people into thinking that those morals are incorrect, that those morals need to be revised. Because if you break the morals of a society down, then people really begin to feel like there's no real purpose of life, that there's no purpose in doing things in a traditional way, so that whatever the elites are trying to accomplish, it doesn't matter to the population. It doesn't matter to the people who are ruled over. That is the goal of the elites. They do not want people to fight back. They do not want people to think critically. They don't want people to be educated, especially educated on matters such as manipulation and matters such as government and elites. They want people to not question. They want people to not be critical of others, which you see more and more every day. It's becoming people get angry at others who criticize others. You're seen as a hateful person when, really people who question and people who are skeptical because they care about the world. So obviously these factions, meaning the governments and the elites and, the media, who also operate and set the standards for concepts like religions, ethics, and education, these factions are doing everything they possibly can to divert your attention from their long-term goals. They want you to believe that you are a person of free will and that you are never under manipulation and that you have never been manipulated, when that could not be further from the truth. I have to assume that the elite's manipulation and influence within the mind war is so vast at this point because it's gone on for a span of decades at least. I mean, most people would say that it's gone on for much, much longer. But as far as advanced technology goes, their influence is so vast that everyone on Earth who has modern technology is affected by some form of manipulation. And I really do mean everyone. Me, any large spokesperson of the mind war, everybody is manipulated somehow. Which is just, you have to keep that in mind. But, I do think that there are people who are less manipulated. I think it's important to be able to point out the people who are most manipulated. It's important to be able to point out people who are passive in their actions here on Earth. These are people who unknowingly support the actions and agendas of the elite, of the government, of the media, of the secret religions. These are people who consume media and information that is distributed by the elites and the government and consume so just passively without criticism and without critique of that information that is being handed to them. What is so remarkable to a mind war participant, someone like me, is that these consumers of elite media and information and products will react so aggressively and violently towards anyone who points out the flaws in these materials that governments provide to their people. You know, it's not so much physical, but people will react with words just so absolutely repulsive and offensive to people who just want to maintain morals. People are vicious. They've been totally brainwashed into and manipulated into thinking that the information that is given to them by mass media is the right answer, that it's, credible science that they're being given. And as evidenced by Gematria, we can see that the scientific evidence that they give to us is based on numerical ritual rather than raw science. People absolutely detest the aspect of being manipulated. People always seem to want to be the smartest, or if they aren't the smartest, they want to belong to the group that seems most intelligent to them. And you just have to keep in mind that if such a group's opinions and beliefs stem from information that is distributed by governments and elites, then their opinions are systematically crafted by powerful human entities that are manipulating populations into thinking in a way that benefits elites and government. Acceptance of concepts like the transgender agenda and the police state agenda and the drug culture agenda, these are all concepts that are pushed in media. They are strategically inserted into the masses' attention so that masses see such concepts from a certain perspective. Anything you hear in the news and media is presented in a way that gives you a specific perspective of what is being told so that your conclusion is based on the perspective that is being told to you. It doesn't give you other perspectives. It doesn't give you the chance to think. There's no debate. It just gives it to you. And you're supposed to form an opinion on the information that's given to you by the information itself. News gives you a story so that you can come to a conclusion about that story using the way the story is presented to you. Doesn't that seem wrong? It seems wrong to me. The story is presented to you in a way that is strategically crafted by the people who are reporting the story. And if the people who are reporting the story are powerful elite people and people in the government and people who belong to secret societies and people who are, mindless in their actions here on earth, how is that a creditable story? How can you believe anything they tell you? Why would you believe anything they tell you? So I just have to assume that it is not wise to come to conclusions based on the elite's distributed media. But it is wise to conclude that the elite's media is fabricated to manipulate people into thinking as they are told. In other words, they are manipulated into following orders, the orders of the media. And anyone who thinks otherwise, I just have to assume has been manipulated and is therefore not creditable. People need to just stop buying into believing what they are being told is happening, and they need to question the agenda that is fueled by the information that is told to them.